See if you'd want to use a contrasting colour. That's it.
Yeah, well, she can choose
just
what
a
colour
little
she
bit
wants.
more, and then you.
She can choose,
cut it.
yeah.
Oh.
And you choose the red.
I'm not going to do that colour. But do you want me to cut yours, Gary?
She might not want.
Yeah. The eyes are quite.
Striking.
The eyes really.
Yeah.
They're very striking, aren't they?
Especially in the middle of the night, if you want.
And those lovely little cherubs at the side. My name's Tabitha Moses. I'm the project facilitator on Where the Arts Belong. And we're here in the creative studio at the Belong Village in Chester. Where the Arts Belong is a 4-year project, and it's a partnership between the Bluecoat and Belong. And it's looking at the impact that arts engagement can have on people who are living with dementia. All right, lovely. Well, this is a beautifully formed group. I'm so glad to see you all. And alongside that, and just as importantly, is the impact that having artists around the place in a residential care setting and involving the staff and the families in that creative life of the village, how that can really improve life for everyone.
Tiny cross stitch.
Really?
Yes, beautiful.
These are just to get our juices flowing, really. Now, I've also got some things to show you. They're still embroidery, but they're so different to this. The difference between maybe the usual craft activities that might be happening and working with an artist and the Bluecoat facilitating that. I think the artists bring an approach and an awareness, and it's not necessarily task focused. It's more allowing a space where people can explore and experiment and take risks, and you don't have to have an outcome. Some of the artists are working very much process based, where it's about being in that moment together. You're still contributing something, even if it's just making us laugh. We've got a brilliant group of artists here in Chester. We've got Alan Dunn, who is a sound artist in this project. He's been running sessions where people are making soundscapes from everyday objects like twanging rulers and tongue twisters as well. They've been having great fun. Brigitte Jurak, she's a sculptor and she's been bringing clay into the studio here, encouraging people to get their hands dirty and just play with mud and embracing the wonkiness of the clay and the wonkiness of life. We've got Mary Prestige, who's a dance artist, and she's been very much about gently inviting people to take notice of themselves and then each other. And, you know, she's not coming in teaching people to tango, but it's about bodies and with some lovely soft musical soundscapes in the background. We've got Jonathan Raisin, who brings his practice as a writer, composer, musician, and generally he's been sort of soaking up the atmosphere of the place. Again, like Mary, very instinctive, responsive to what he's finding here. We've got Roger Hill, who is using his time here as a storyteller and developing tools and passing on tools for playfulness and storytelling. He's working closely with family members and individual residents. There you go.
Oh, very nice.
Oh, nice. I like the shapes you're making there.
That must be.
Yeah. So I am not only the project facilitator, but I'm also an artist, and I'm working as an artist here. And today we're going to be embroidering on hardboard and wood and just sort of showing people that it doesn't have to be on fabric. You know, you're never too old to like learn something new and have a new experience and see new things. And so it's been lovely that people will just have a go. We're going to show it here in Belong, so you'll be able to see it.
Lovely.
We're going to have an exhibition in the Grosvenor Museum in Chester City Centre.
Well,
Show people there and tell them about the great work and celebrate you and what we do together. I hope people can see through this film and maybe through the wider public expressions of the project. I hope they can see the breadth of the art forms that have been represented here and the depth of the relationships that have been built and strengthened, not only through individuals like an artist and a participant, but also between groups and between families and their loved ones, between the care professionals, also between the Bluecoat and Belong. It's been wonderful to see people who maybe haven't drawn since school or had the idea that they couldn't, or have never even picked up a needle and thread, to the beginning, you know, when they're in their 80s or 90s even. It's just wonderful. It's so life affirming and gives me hope for my future and just that sort of lifelong learning. To see that in evidence is really great. I hope that this project and the exhibition, the symposium, the conversations that come out of it, I hope that it goes some way as well to changing the perception of a life with dementia. The amazing care and support that is provided by people within the Belong organisation and the amazing impact that this arts engagement can have. It is so possible to live well with dementia and for families to live well with a loved one with dementia as well. So I hope we can just help people understand that a bit more.
Hello. Before we start, what we need to do is every week we come up with a new name for the orchestra.
I'm Alan Dunn, I'm one of the artists on Where the Arts Belong and sat here in the Creative Studio in Chester Belong today. So today has been a culmination of residency that I've been doing here in Chester Belong, exploring the use of sound within the care home setting.
Gentle trip down the canal. Might get a bit of rain here, Barbara.
Give it a little shake, that Barbara. Sorry. You're making rain.
The interesting thing for me about Where the Arts Belong is we're trying to explore all 5 senses, so I'm really interested in not just making sounds but also listening. So my proposal was really easy. It was bringing in domestic objects, so dog bowls, rulers, whistles, bells, and using those as instruments. So whether someone's got musical talent or not didn't really matter. I also wanted to remove maybe the role that memory played in this experience. So it's very much about gathering the residents together, forming orchestras and picking a theme. But also for me it's important that it's about sometimes when language breaks down and there's problems hearing or there's problems saying things, or when we're doing the tongue twisters, the brain can't process the words fast enough to get the words out. And for me, what I've experienced with Alzheimer's and dementia, that frustration when language breaks down is part of this project as well. I think especially during lockdown where we all went to FaceTime or Teams or Zoom, and depending on your signal, the absolute frustration of wanting to make sounds, which is talking to someone, but not being able to for some reason. I think that all underpins these sound workshops as well.
Okay, I'm just trying to get somewhere where the lighting's good.
Oh, look at that little person he's got with him. Who's that with you?
I've been doing it online, so this idea of broadcasting to the residents, meaning that any time there's a glitch or a delay or a technical fault, it only adds to the whole soundtrack. So it's almost like an open university session.
After the animal sounds, we're going to hear in the distance very quiet Neil Diamond concert in Chester.
Yeah, and I think for me one of the biggest learning things has been how you care and relate to people with dementia. So the staff of Belong and the families and friends and carers of people with dementia. The importance of maybe these sessions, even though it's only an hour, where it's a leveller. If you walk into that room and listen for 5 minutes to the tongue twisters, there's no way to identify who had dementia or who had other conditions or who the artist was. So that idea of can we have these moments where somebody's identity is defined by something other than whether they have dementia or not. And I often quote one of the most important Scottish artists called George Wiley, who didn't start being an artist till he was 60. He spent his whole life at sea, which has got correlation to the canal out there, And then after he retired from customs and excise, then he became an artist. So we're also challenging this notion of the kind of creative loop. It's presumed that you're creative when you're young, but it kind of fades and it's not encouraged later on. The whole project's maybe trying to reverse that. And maybe could we find people with hidden talents in their 60s, 70s, 80s and 90s and maybe these tongue twisters or orchestras reveal other talents that could help the staff in their kind of day-to-day interaction with them, but also maybe reveal talents within the staff that can help them maybe in the kind of professional work. What we're going to try and do, right, it's a good one, it's a good one. You've got to say it 10 times really quickly. Okay, tell me if you can read it. Okay, ready? 1, 2, 3. She says cheese, 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 she says cheese. So while working on Where Arts Belong, I was also, my own dad had been diagnosed with Alzheimer's, so I had this strange parallel where, for me personally, and we're not just robots, we're artists as humans, and I found it easier to actually deal with or work with residents of Belong than I did with my dad at the end because of this stage with Alzheimer's. So again, that was, for me, that was a very interesting, the strength of Belong, that I learned a lot from working with Belong staff and then maybe tried to put it in practice with my own family. I'm not saying it was easy, but I've seen the warmth and the relationship between the staff at Belong and the residents in their homes through Belong at Home, in the villages during lockdown, and they've become the artists in a sense. I'm at one end on the screen, they're in the room, and they have become my conductors, my extension, and I love that form of collaboration.
I'll take this opportunity to thank everybody, because we've been on this journey for 8 weeks now, doing sort of strange things, but you've been really excellent. Everyone's taken part, staff and residents have been excellent, and it's been good fun. So let me share my screen and we'll go for a little canal journey.
January 19 we started this project. We're approaching sort of 4 years now, and we've covered the global pandemic, we've covered the opening of a new village, so it's learning kind of shoulder to shoulder. It's been magical. I know it seems silly, but it's been really, really magical at times. It's been good.
Very interesting.
Yeah. And it brings in bits of your life from Africa and from Jamaica. Those animal sounds as well have come back into it, as well as, plus you can hear and see the real canal.
Yes.
Barbara I've been working with for 8 weeks now, and there is some kind of cumulative build-up of knowledge there, but also there's not. But that doesn't matter. She performed better today than she did last week, and she really got into the tongue twisters and the creating the sound of rain and the horse racing, etc. And for me, that says something.
Oh, thank you, Barbara.
You're very welcome.
It's been lovely today to be together.
It has been lovely, yes.
Yeah.
I've enjoyed it. It's been something a bit different,
Yes.
which is always,
Nice, yes.
I think, lovely. Yes. Because it's not a noise you normally make, is it? In fact, you shout at the kids to shut up.
And Jean said, all our lives we've been told to be quiet.
Yes, yes.
And now we're like,
We're banging like mad.
Yes,
By taking this environment of the Belong village and say, well, actually, things can happen here that you've been encouraged to not just make noise, but to compose, to perform, to listen, to be part of a group, to have fun, and absolutely to misbehave. And the more noise, the better. And today we actually told the orchestra, we call them orchestras, to be noisier and to make more noise. And that last sequence of the horse race, where people get faster and faster, and the whole room was kind of getting faster and faster. It's very hard to find other walks of life where you're encouraged to do that.
and meet new people.
Meet new people. Yes, yes. Especially men.
Part of this project is to work with Belong to say every aspect of your village needs to be seen through creative eyes. So the hard surfaces here, how things sound, what kind of hardware you've got, what kind of activities you do. Or Barbara said she loves the tongue twister so much, maybe she'll start the day with a tongue twister. So gradually, hopefully, we're kind of using these arts projects to influence and change for the better people's lives or quality of life.
3, 2, 1.
Better butter, butts and butter, but she said the butter's better. If I put it in my batter, it will make my batter better. Better butter will make my batter better. So she bought some better butter better than the bitter butter. Put her in her batter better, made her better batter better. So it was Betty butter, bought some better butter.
Hey!
Your turn.
Could you rise to the challenge, please, and make a fish on here now
Right.
with clay? So,
Try to make the clay
good.
onto the lid. Try. Yeah. Just like this.
Oh, it's wet.
A little bit
it's wet, yes.
Try it.
It's on here. No.
Very boring.
Yeah, I'll hold this.
Yeah, make a coil.
Make it long.
You make a coil there. So you can kind of, start somewhere randomly there and stick the clay on in the shape of a fish.
Can we cut his face off?
You could cut that. Yeah, my name is Brigitte Jurok. I'm an artist, and also I teach at Manchester School of Art, Manchester Metropolitan University. We have been making clay seafood.
Right then.
So, would you like to try to use the rolling pin and make
You got me.
So my practice is sort of twofold. One is actually the creation of work, sculptures, photographs, installations, and the other is to create events which are sort of memorable, spectacle, or sort of kind of, sensual, kind of heightened experiences. I was invited to be part of the 3-year art project between Belong and the Bluecoat. Perhaps because I have these sort of two angles to my practice, the sort of participatory element and the sort of like what I would call a sort of single authorship element. Would you like to touch this for a little bit? And push this down there? Yes, brilliant. So for me, I think everyone has a sort of a body memory of making something, because the first thing you do with clay is pushing it and kneading it, so anybody who's ever baked something will have a sort of a body memory of that. So in that sense, I think everyone is able to make a fantastic piece of work. I think it is up to the onlooker to be open enough as to what that piece of work is.
Oh, yes, it looks beautiful.
Yes, I thought so too. It was really beautiful.
Definitely.
So I got this.
Look at those edges.
Yeah. The end product for me is important of each session because I'd like the participants to feel that they've actually achieved something. But what they achieved is individual in relation to how much time they spend on something, or at what level they're engaging with the material, i.e. kind of, are they pinching, pulling, rolling, carving, scratching into the surface. So I'm not of a disposition where I kind of think like everyone has to do the same thing. I put something in the middle of the room and we're taking sort of interpretive kind of takes on that. To warm yourself up, yes, you can just kind of put that clay onto the leaf. That's very good. I mean, the folding, the tactility of the material is really the starting point. That sort of the fact it's cold, it sticks, it's slightly wet, it's damp, and let's be honest. I mean, how many people handle that kind of material when they are not in primary school anymore? Nobody, really. So in this location here in Chester, there is the idea of engaging in intergenerational learning and intergenerational activities.
This is Sheila.
So the idea is that the children are taking part in some of the workshops, which enhances the well-being of everyone involved, but maybe also kind of, increases a sort of a tacit knowledge in relation to intergenerational kind of being together. You'll make a nice fish on top of it. Yeah? I never thought I was going to stick with clay. I thought I'm going to do sculpture, but I did realize that, especially during the COVID interruption, so to speak, that, where everyone was terrified of touching anything, that actually touch is my primary kind of, that's what I'm about. That's what the making is about. So the sort of idea of that when you touch something, it responds, clay gives, so you poke a hole, there's a hole, you just kind of stay it. You don't need to use any tools other than your hands. So there is something probably quite sort of animal-like or primeval in this. And I think that's sort of what fascinates me, is that from that first touch, so to speak, you can actually create something and you can kind of envisage something. And I never thought I would be able to do that online. I completely surprised myself or the participants on the other side of the big screen surprised me that the communication and the making just simply took over. So when these sessions were taking place online, it was always the same group who attended. So it was a bit more like kind of, I suppose, Open University, you know it's every Monday afternoon, so you just kind of go there. But what really surprised me is that, so you could sense a sort of building up of confidence and tacit knowledge and imagination. And in one location in Wigan, I had somebody who'd allegedly never done anything before, in the end run the class. I mean, literally, do the session and help the others which were in the same room facilitating their kind of making. I mean, that was just sort of mind-blowing, and never thought after 5-6 weeks that was possible. Here you go. Try to make little balls like that. Leave that on there, that's pretty good. We all talk about well-being and kind of things. So it's kind of how important it is for us to understand ourselves as human beings. And I have really found over the past 2.5 years, especially when relatives are doing something as well or come and visit, is how bonding it is to actually do something together. You don't need to talk, there is no pressure, you're sitting next to each other, you might help each other, you might have a snippet of an incidental conversation, but if there's silence like there was this morning, it's perfect. You just you feel a real sense of concentration and joy in the making. And I think that's really kind of the greatest gift of art. That's why we are artists. That's why one wishes to go to a theatre or is to be transported into this other world. Forget about shopping lists. Forget about the kind of, the everyday. Just be in that moment of creation. And I think that's what I would like people who see an exhibition or watch this video be able to kind of see.
Nice. Janice, I think you've got a talent here. Previously undiscovered.
Change your tools.
It's been lovely to see you, Sheila.
Yes, thank you.
And I'll see you again soon.
I hope we do, yes. That's nice.
Yeah.
I wasn't confident to come out and do it. But
How are you feeling now?
all right. I mean, you don't bat heads off here, do you?
Yeah, it's all right. It's okay. It's not something I do a lot of.
You never know when the making bug hits you. So I think the art, where does the art reside? The art reside in that sort of, in not only in the moment of engagement, but actually in the ability to go with the snippets of imagination which are coming out. And I do the same with students. So I don't, on that level, because I'm teaching at university, there is no difference. I mean, if you're a first-year student, you're beginning to articulate something. So the workshop or the teaching is about making that articulation sort of, come out and kind of, giving the person you're working with the confidence that it's all right to go that way. Yeah?
Do you?
The other side better.
My play.
This is a bit fatter, so it's not falling off
Ready?
when I take it home. Yeah, just kind of, sort of make it all kind of fattish there, and then a tail here. So I could probably put a little bit more clay
On someone, and then make sure they've got, all right. Let's turn your hand over. Whoa! Let me just see if we can balance it.
Catch Dennis. Dennis.
We're dancing with our feet. Feel the soles of the feet. Oh. Can you show the soles of this is not soles of the feet to your partner?
Yeah, so I'm Mary Prestige, and have been a dancer all my life. My area of dance has been in experimentation, improvisation, working with different groups of people, old, young, different abilities. and the improvisation practice that I've been honing and really interested in is very open, really, and much more about who I'm engaging with and what they bring rather than me imposing too much. So it's that delicate balance of finding the kind of offering, the kind of way in for people, the suggestion, the invitations, but being quite rigorous at the same time. So there is detail, that it's not about just doing whatever. There is kind of a sense of where this might be coming from, where we focus our attention, what we're seeing with our eyes, what we're listening to with our ears. How does that support what it is we do, or how does that challenge or stimulate the kinds of things that we do, what we respond to?
That's it.
Feel that where the
Sure.
neck and the chin meet.
Gonna give your face.
Feel where the neck and the chin meet. Your lips don't often get much attention, do you? When was the last time you squeezed your ear?
Feel the bone, the jaw. Get a grip of the bone there. Squeeze it, that's it. Real squeeze.
So all those little devices that are so simple but so transformative, they will change something ordinary into something maybe extraordinary. So I've come in to belong. We're a part of the arts, where the arts belong, and we did some early work in a village in Crewe, and I did some group sessions, but maybe 2 or 3 only, with a lot of play, with a lot of getting to know each other. So not so much evolved, but really one-off with new groups each time. And then we did a period during lockdown with one-to-one on FaceTime or through a Zoom in different people's homes. That was quite challenging, but actually once the technicals worked and we got people together, it was actually a very nice, quite intimate communication. I think a lot of what carers do is immediately that engagement side. They're there, they have time to really meet the person, get to know them. And so we played a little bit with what it meant to shift from that more functional caring role into someone who was in the game with them, was much more going somewhere new together. And that was quite difficult, and I was giving some instructions. So they were both doing, but it was wonderful. And I really enjoyed that, and meeting that one person, the support worker, for a bit more time, to have time with them was really great. And I really appreciated what they were doing, and hopefully they got something from it too.
How are you feeling, Shirley? Oh, lovely. You feeling good today?
I am.
Oh, brilliant.
Who wants this?
No, I mean, that's what's fantastic here. The people who work here have much more time with the residents, and it's incredible. And I'm realising how much it is about knowing how the building runs, how the people work, who they're managing, how they're managing, what their roles are. So I know I've met Erica quite a lot, and Heather too, and having time to chat with them and be with them is because they're the ones who are going to be carrying this work, or carrying whatever the residue of the work that we've done. And that's what's really important, is what continues.
Oh, that was fantastic.
There's so much going on in our bodies, there's so much happening. We can tap into anywhere with this minimal amount, and sometimes the concepts get a bit too weird, perhaps for some people, if I imagine this, or where can we take this activity, what is this about, how to guide people into that. And sometimes it's just play, and actually that sort of loosens that up. So we just start with playing or sharing something. you know, if you can't see inside your body, you've got to kind of plant an image in there, a picture. If you really get that picture in, you can then play with it. Do you want to hold the ball and say?
You look like you're about to.
No. Oh! Wait, that's the
Ladies want one.
Barbara?
Doreen. I mean, what the joy of movement is that you don't have to do the talking business. Yeah, memory is a funny thing. Exploring that, discovering that. Yes, actually going with other places that are all functioning, highly functioning spaces in the brain and in the mind, really, that are doing loads. So it's just letting that come to the surface and get the other thinking, where am I, what do I have to do? You know, it's like just sort of find the moment you're in, really. It's finding the place you're in, and for all of us, I think, for myself, being there.
Put your hand like this.
I wonder if you could get
Yeah, yeah, on top.
Oh, God, let's feel them a bit.
Weaken our muscles
up
a bit. Might put the ball down. Do you want to throw? Yeah.
Keep it up, keep it in the... Put it in
Put it down.
We had a bit of an experience this morning, and where that will sit and go, I don't know. And up. And let it go. Let go.
Go round. There you go.
Oh. Oh.
Whoa!
Oh dear. It's a bit of wind.
I'm Jonathan Raisin, and I'm one of the Where the Arts Belong artists. I'm a musician, writer, project person, and I've just been working in the village here in Chester. That was the beginning of my involvement. Today, we were going to have a very sort of quiet, relaxed, meditative listening to the piano session, because that had come up from conversations last week. And it inevitably went in a completely different direction. We had kids from the nursery coming up, which was great. Obviously, they were invited. And there's been a kind of little theme building up over the last few weeks that various people have talked, because I've been doing a lot of conversations about musical experiences. Some people have sung in choirs, or, you know, and various people have said they used to play a bit of piano but don't anymore. So I've been trying for weeks to get people to come up and have a little go. And today we did.
Cheryl, see, I knew I'd find out. You're Cheryl.
That's Jonathan.
Cheryl was lovely. Yeah, today was the first time I'd met Cheryl. And yeah, I thought that was very moving, actually. She just came and sat down at the piano and just stroked the keys. I might even introduce that into my piano lessons as a kind of starting point. It felt very much like she's reconnecting with something that is kind of there, not sort of muscle memory or memory that, you know, she was stretching on the full range of the piano and then singing with it. It was like, yeah, she was kind of doing something she used to do. She'd forgotten part of it, but was engaged, didn't actually take her fingers off the keys, which was lovely.
Come on, Janice, give us Janice's turn, come on.
Janice, again, I've been trying to get up to the piano for a long time. Yeah, she followed on and did a little bit of chopsticks, remembered a little bit, which is great. And it's interesting because that's not, I'd never really sort of set out to try and get people onto the piano. It wasn't really in the planning. It was, obviously when you come into somewhere like this, you never knew who's going to be here, and certainly in other experiences I've had working with elderly people, you find that someone, is some professional opera singer, or, they have a skill, a musical skill, which obviously you want to kind of access. So you're kind of always ready for it, but yeah, it seems to be more and more there are people saying, oh yeah, I used to play a bit of piano. And I think maybe in that generation lots of people did actually, it was just much more of a normal thing. Try doing that just on the black keys, just all the black ones.
Put on the black keys?
Yeah. Yeah, so that was a lovely session actually. Again, it wasn't the plan, but that's kind of what we've learned. I've certainly learned, or it's been reinforced in this project. And that's a joy in this actually, because something happens that wasn't what you might have expected, wasn't what you planned for. You kind of realise more and more how important it is to have the possibility of working one-to-one in these kind of sessions, in this environment. So there's a little bit of time management when you're trying to follow something, give someone a bit of time, try and then re-engage with other people. It's in a way that's never completely resolvable, and unless you're kind of coming in with 6 pianists. I did like that one. I think with no escaping from it in this work that, there is, for me, from the outside, something that's very sad and poignant about this. That's something I'm also struck by, that you're working with people for whom life is closing down. And I can't say that everybody, how people experience that emotionally for themselves is also very different. There's the music you remember, and so people kind of go, oh, that song, yeah, I love that song. That reminds me of when I met my husband, in the ballroom in Glasgow, and I remember what I was wearing suddenly, having forgotten most of the details of their life. There's the kind of memory trigger. But then also the way that music, and it might not be something you've ever heard before, but has an emotion triggering quality. Hearing a piece of music that you've never heard before and being moved by it, which suggests that within whatever is going on in the mind and emotions with dementia, there is possible to kind of form new experiences, new emotional experiences, new memories. And that's very interesting. To me, the important thing about working as an artist is not particularly the art form. It's not particularly that I'm playing music, but it's that we're trying to engage people, and it happens to be through that medium. Creative engagement can be anything. It can be, we're going to look out of the window at the canal again. I do that because we love the canal here. And I think that, that's a hard one to understand sometimes. There is an expectation and understanding that the arts is a set of discrete activities. There's dance, there's music, there's painting, there's poetry. I think sometimes as artists who have a kind of wider understanding of it as being much more sort of human, we have to kind of remember that we need to explain that sometimes. Because ultimately what we're trying to say is that we're interested in creativity and creative responses to things, and that's actually it's more a mindset than a kind of set of technical skills. A poetic understanding of the space you live in is as important as writing the poem. It's being aware of things around you, because that's what's enriching.
I'll come and
This work of art was created by you. A couple here just to show you. There's one that I think is amazing, and it's this one. I thought you were. You know that if I've got a plan, you'll do something opposite, won't you? Give me a character reading. Tell you what, we haven't got any red there. Shall we bring the red over into it? Yeah, green, black, red and yellow. This one, of course, belongs to Jean. Have you got one like this? Yeah. Okay, let's have a look at it then. Just have a look, just have a look. Okay. What do you reckon? What kind of music would you like?
Some dreamy music.
Good, okay. I'm Roger Hill, and I'm one of the artists involved in the Where the Arts Belong project. How are you doing?
Not too bad, thank you.
Good. Each of us different artists have chosen a different way of going about what we do here, and I've taken a very clear view that it's a research project and that I need to understand more about how dementia impacts upon people's lives, behaviours and relationships. I chose to work with people who were also quite regularly in touch with their family members so that I can understand those relationships, and also I can talk to the family members about the way that their work impacts on the people, but also just simply what the real needs are, because everybody's got a story, and one of the challenges here is to find out what that story is. In fact, the whole challenge with dementia, the idea in my head is that dementia, whilst it is of itself a degenerative condition, is susceptible to hesitation of that degeneration. In other words, there are moments when you can raise and enhance and encourage positive developments that momentarily break the cycle of degeneration, which is part and parcel of what we understand dementia to be. And I'd love you to look closely at that one with that and then tell me what you see. So they all came together from all over, especially for you. Right, let's have a little look, see what else. Oh, there's a cake. And I don't mean this in a nonsensical way, but everything should be happy. And how do we get that to be the case? How do we, as arts workers, how does the staff who will learn from us, how do the family members who learn from us, how will they apply techniques and strategies towards the business of enabling a particular, a very particular dimension of happiness to the people who are here? And that's really been the focus of my work. So I have done, as well as doing storytelling work and looking at pictures, examining objects and relating parts of life and sharing my life as well as them sharing their life with me, and involving games that involve bringing together pictures in various capacities. I've also done painting, which is technically not in my repertoire at all, but I'm not doing painting in that sense. I am working with a particular person in front of an easel on which there is a blank sheet of paper, and we are exploring their capability for making marks and creating visual representations, abstract or otherwise.
The gentlemen don't do it.
I know they don't. You got me in one. All right, I was wondering what you were up to, but you keep doing what you need to do, because I'm not the one to tell you. Come on, down, 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 down. Chin on chest. Down there. And up. That's better.
Are you doing this?
Oh, we'll do that as well, haven't we? Okay. This time it's not squeeze its fingers.
I did say to Roger, you saw Mum at her most sassy. She is quite sassy. Yeah, she was super sassy last week. I'm Diane, and we're at Belong Chester, which is where my mum lives. She's on a household here. She's christened Paula June, but she's always known as June Davis. I think it was a really successful session for Mum. Roger asked her what music she wanted, and she asked for dreamy music in the background. Music is a real winner with Mum. And then she was doing some work on her painting, adding bits to that. And then Roger did some physical, where they hold hands and Mum can take his hands for a walk, and she really loved that. She really threw herself into that. I like the fact that Roger does physical stuff with her, because language can be, on a bad day for Mum, really hard to process, and certainly hard for her to process quickly. And Roger tends to really reduce the amount of words he uses, and he does some things that you don't need words for, like the physical stuff.
Well, I mean, the moment they and I are in the same space, as long as I'm not completely rejected, and it is possible to be rejected, so it's not as though I'm a winner all the time, but where there is an engagement moment, that's kind of what you work outwards from. It's like the pebble dropping in the pond and then the ripples spreading, until such time as you're having a fine old time with somebody who originally was just a bit gruff and glum.
You've seen Roger, he talks to Mum as though she's not impaired cognitively, really. He just gives her a lot of space and he follows her lead. And I think that's really subtle, but Roger might have decided or planned a session beforehand and kind of have an idea of what he'd like to do in that session. But you saw last week, Mum is not always compliant. If she doesn't want to do it, that's that. And he just very skillfully follows her lead. And I think if Roger tried to direct Mum, I think he wouldn't get anywhere near the same level of spark. She does, she kind of sparkles a little bit with him, and that's really nice.
How one's that brush then? How one's those brushes?
You do a better job than me.
But I mean, I have learnt a lot about dementia itself while I've been here, and this project's been going for 3-4 years now, and it's been, yes, revelatory, because it's not my professional thing, though it is my brother's, and I've spent a lot of time talking to my brother, who's a doctor who works in elderly care. But as well as being revelatory, it's just been quite pleasurable to understand better the complexities of people's relationship with their cognitive capability.
It's totally different from anything Mum would encounter anywhere else, I think, in her weekly life. So it's a little bit of a creative oasis. And she does vary how she is from one session to the next. And some sessions, she actually said once, this is really hard, because what we were making was all imaginative, and she really struggled to kind of imagine what we were doing, and it was just really challenging for her, but she knew it and she stuck with it, and we've still got that thing that we made, and occasionally we do get it out and she rolls her eyes, but yeah, I think it's great for her to push buttons that don't get pushed. Roger and I had a good chat on Wednesday, and he was wondering if we'd seen any impact from the sessions, and there is definitely a benefit to her. Whether it's something you could kind of put into words and demonstrate, I don't know, or measure, probably not. There isn't much carryover from situations in her life, but she definitely has got to know Roger. So, you know, she'll give him a big wave when he appears. What she did might not stick necessarily and might not bleed into the rest of her life, but the fact that she recognises him and she waves to him and she's quite positive about him, I think is enough.
My first words, Mum, Daddy, no, bye-bye, yes. One of the things that I have been aiming to do is to find ways in which people can and I use the word medicate, they can self-regulate if they feel the moment coming on, one of those lost moments, that there are things that they can do for themselves, even without having to press the button or cry out in the middle of the night or be hugged in the morning. You know, there are ways in which they can do that. And I've already know that some people do that. I mean, one of the people here said to me, I'd like to get out of my room and engage with people, because it stops me getting worse. Dreamy music, was that the request?
It's good, that.
Yeah, dreamy. Well, we haven't done it yet.
We had one session with Roger where there was nothing physical. They were just talking, and it was about 30 minutes. He kind of really simplified things down, and he brought it down to 3 photographs that he did have. And Mum, her Parkinson's can be she can writhe with it sometimes, and over the session, she just kind of stilled.
The Sunday Times bestseller book about all this turns this whole thing into a strategy and a game. They really do. You know, it's like when that happens, you do this. And it's very mechanical. And all I know is that there's a certain level of chaos and complication about all this that we are not going to wish away simply by having strategies of our own. We have to adjust. All right, okay. Oh, you're still too good for me. You're still too good for me after all this time. Oh, look at you.
It's like nothing else I do in the week. I love it. I do, because it's absolutely about Mum. So, you know, no idea what's going to come, and that doesn't freak Roger. He talks to her and kind of gives her banter, and I just thoroughly enjoy watching the sassy side of Mum.
Come on, I want to see some... That's it, get it. Oh, darling, what is that shaping up? The cognitive dimension of life, the neuro-physical relationship in life was very complex, but it affects everybody in the world, and I wanted to know more through close engagement with that. But also I know it'll be me one day in some form. I mean, it already is, you know. I mean, if I have, you know, senior moments and memory misses and the rest of it, if I do all that kind of thing, then I feel that I'm also in this frame itself. I'm inside the frame as well as outside the frame.
The thing I notice most about Roger's sessions with Mum is he would say exactly the same things if she didn't have dementia. He just meets her head on. And I think if you have artists who can do that, who are not spooked by dementia, and it can be random sometimes and not very consistent sometimes, if you have someone who just can go with it and not be kind of a bit freaked by dementia, I think it's amazing. Yeah, and Roger definitely is not freaked by mums.
My instinct is that some of it is simply to do with styles of engagement, and it's to do with what you do when somebody comes up to you speaking what by other purposes in other situations might be considered to be nonsense or disconnected sense, if you see what I mean, and how you respond to that. It's about embracing their realities.
And kind of de-spook the fact that it's all bleak and grey and a kind of degenerative state. It is all of those things, but there are real islands of bright sunshine, really, and I think probably sums up Mum's work with Roger. It's just a little island in a week. She was a primary school teacher. She will have had visiting artists. She will have organised visiting artists for the children, but it's her turn and she leads it. She's in control of it. So, yeah, I think opportunities for people with dementia are really important, and this is one. I just think it's really enlightened, and I think we've found Belong as an organisation quite progressive and cutting edge, but arts and dementia, I think, is a brilliant combination, so the more the better.
Yes, 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 yes. Whoa! Yes.
Did you like that?
I did like that. I like that a lot. Whoa! I'll tell you when I don't like it because I'll stop. But whoa, 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 wow. All right, okay. Let's do the gentle version now. Let's have the sweet, dreamy version.
It's very gentle.
Very gentle. Right, so it's the dreamy version.
Excuse me, I don't want cats, but you have dogs.
All right, you're getting wild again. You're getting wild. Right, have a wild thing then, and then we're going to leave me, otherwise I shall fall in bits. And you can't deal with me if I'm bits. Off you go. Do all your madness. Go on. Right, go on, throw it, up, down, round about, wherever you like. Right.
You'll have that lady coming in next door again. She came in last time, TV was on. She did.
Let's stop there while I've still got some energy. And let's detach. And I'm going to get you dreamy music together.
Thank God you put something in it.
I know I did. Well, they put something in everything, don't they? There's something in the water, you know.
Is there?
Yeah, apparently. I'm not sure what, but apparently there is. Now then,